Good evening. We're going back into open session. This is continuing the Gloucester School Committee meeting on January 25th, 2023. Why don't we do roll call attendance one more time, starting with you, please, Christine?
Hi, Chris Castle, Gloucester Public Schools, ELL. Amy Pasquarello, Assistant Superintendent.
And Lomas, Superintendent.
Keith Minio, School Committee.
Melissa Prince, School Committee. Samantha Watson, School Committee.
Laura Weason, School Committee.
Maria Puglisi, Recording Secretary.
Kathy Clancy, School Committee.
Kathy, you're muted, I think. We couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I'm
Oh,
on.
there we are.
There we
Okay, present.
Please join me for the salute to the flag. Okay, so we're going to move on to oral communications. The public shall have the opportunity at every regular school committee meeting to be heard under oral communications. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to the school committee business to appear before the school committee, state their problem with the committee, and the matter may be referred to the proper subcommittee. For items that are on the agenda, members of the public may address the committee with the permission of the chair. Persons speaking under oral communication shall be limited to 3 minutes each and shall submit a copy of the prepared communication to the recording secretary. School committee chair will not allow complaints as to individual performance or character. Anybody have any oral communications? Okay, seeing none. On to recognitions. Does anyone have any recognitions? Yeah.
I want to recognize all of the people who participated in making the new playground at Beaman Elementary a reality. From the PTO to DPW to the administration and lots of people in between. It's a really exciting new thing for Beaman, and the students are thrilled, and just want to recognize all the work that went into that.
Second that.
So we had a meeting right before this meeting, and for those who didn't get to watch it, we heard from our transportation director, Laurie Francis, who mentioned that we have a part-time bus mechanic that actually got up late and made sure all the bus doors were not frozen on Monday night. So I want to recognize that effort because obviously it's above and beyond his job description. So for whatever his name is, because I don't know his name. Peter? Thank you, Peter.
And
Well,
you'll do that.
well done.
Yeah, it's done on many golden rings when we think things might be frozen.
Yeah.
there, yeah. Peter's
He's
great
a
job, thank you.
mechanic plus, they call him, so just wanted to give him some recognition.
Okay, so the next, anybody else? Any questions?
I'll put some photos of being a little bit later, but it's good.
Great.
Carry on.
So next item is the GHS Student Advisory Council. Let's see. Adriana,
Hi,
hi.
how are you?
Oh, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. So there's a few things. First, the GHS Theater just had auditions for their next play, which will be sometime in the spring. And then the National Honor Society just started their tutoring sessions in the atrium at the tables that the class of 2022 gifted. That has been very successful. NHS has also been asked to volunteer with the Sawyer Free Library to help out with the Gloucester 400. And then the senior class has a fundraiser at the Franklin tomorrow from 5 p.m. to close. And we also have senior banquet tickets on sale right now. It'll be held on March 30th at the cruise port. The juniors are doing their Valentine's Day fundraiser during lunch where they sell like candy carnations. And then the MIAA just released the rankings for our Division II hockey team, and the boys varsity team is ranked number 16. They've had a good couple games recently, winning against the D1 team Woburn, and then last week another good game against Danvers. We're hoping to make at least like the top 15 so we can host a few playoff games at home. And then in December, the GHS Free Food Locker distributed over 60 free food orders to 26 students and their families. In the months November and December, members of the GHS Health Center Youth Advisory Council planted perennials and bulbs outside the entrance of the school. So we're looking forward to seeing those bloom sometime in the spring and summer. And then SAGA, which is the Sexuality and Gender Acceptance Club at the school, had visitors from graduated SAGA members this past week where they offered guidance and support to the current members. Today, Fox 25 News came to the school as well as last week to speak with Mrs. Rosa Goulart and our mental health ambassadors on how mental health affects schools. One of the segments will be on TV on February 15th at 10 p.m. on Fox 25. And then on February 7th, parents of GHS students are giving back to our staff by hosting a teacher's luncheon catered by the Causeway. It'll be held between their professional development day. And then lastly, there will be an all student council and NHS meeting in homeroom on Wednesday, the 1st, to discuss Secret Pal Week, which will run from February 13th to the 17th. Secret Pals is when each member of student council and NHS is given 1 or 2 faculty members in the school, and every day that student will give their assigned staff member a gift or like an act of kindness and eventually reveal themselves on the last day. The purpose of this is to spread acts of kindness as well as maybe meet a new teacher that you may not already know. And that's all.
Thank you, Adriana. Does anyone have any questions? You guys have a lot. Where'd you go? Oh, she's still there. Okay. You guys have a lot going on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well done. You're welcome to stay, but we take no offense if there's something more fun to do.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. Okay, next item of business is the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that they would like removed from the consent agenda?
I would like to remove.
So I don't want
the-
to remove it, but I just wanted to draw attention to 2 awesome scholarships that are on there. One being 4 scholarships in the amount of $25,000 each from Twin Light Beverages Trust Award Scholarship, which had a great detail about how Twin Lights, which originates in Rockport, Massachusetts, the old soda that the older ones of us remember very fondly back when we were younger. So that's a huge recognition for them, and kudos and thank them for putting these scholarships forward for Gloucester, Rockport and Manchester, I believe. And also the Lynn Lani Bashan memorial membership in the amount of $1,000 put forward by Patty Wall from Better Together of KPN. So don't want to remove anything, but just give a kudos and a good recognition and a big thank you to those who put scholarships forward for us for approval.
Kathy has her hand up.
I was actually going to try to remove the scholarship item for that very purpose, Melissa. There's a lovely history of the company and what their goals are. So yeah, I'll also further your recognition of the generosity for the kids on Cape Ann.
Thank you.
So I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Maria, roll call.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason. Yes. Kathy Clancy,
Yes,
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
and Ms. Prince.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Moving on to deliberations on educational issues and the superintendent report.
Great, thank you very much. Share my screen. There are all of the things. So as everyone knows, we lost at all schools, every day matters and everybody belongs. As always, when we get to the English learner presentation, you'll see an updated template, which is better looking than mine. But it starts with the same, just the same slogan. So English learner education update. I'll give just a few quick updates with some photos and stuff like that. Then we'll have Chris Castle, our EL director and Title I director, and Amy Pasquarello give an update on English learner education. Amy will also then go through the drafts of our school calendars and make sure folks understand how we're doing that and have some discussion on that. We'll vote for that for this time, we'll vote for the next meeting on February 8th, but just so we get some input from you, you can adjust if necessary. And then I'll give an update on mainly window and door replacement. So first thing is gonna sort of cut to the end of the agenda quickly, which is just the update on East Vets. But you can see here some great photos of East Vets. I think this is pretty amazing. So a few of us, Mr. Fusco, Assistant Principal Christy Lambert, I think Amy Pasquarello, myself, went to see the school week before last, I think it was. And as you can see, cabinetry's in, walls are painted. I think this is this is a fourth grade classroom of the student cubbies there on the left. Cabinets installed on the right. For fifth grade classroom, you see the sort of accent wall.
I'm amazed at how much that matches the header. The colors.
That was all planned. Maybe not. Gymnasium's coming on, so then we go down to the building beats, gymnasium's coming on. You see the windows, I think they're actually painting, at that point they were painting the walls of the gymnasium. That's as in the same space is the framing for the 30-inch high stage, which has a great back of house area and ramp access to the art room, which can serve as a green room. Music room. The art room there on the left will feature a maker space, so you can see, different parts of the building are different levels of progress. For example, on the right there is a classroom hallway. I think this might be the third floor, but literally the tiles are done. I think maybe the grouting has to happen, but that's part of the blue and white tile that lines the hallway.
That's new.
That's near, throughout all the hallways. So Matt Fusco, Principal Matt Fusco, I think characterized it. He goes, it is better than I could have imagined, and that he is very excited, which is great. And I think, of course, his excitement changes, but I'm amazed that painting is happening, and cabinets and that sort of stuff. I mean, a lot of these classrooms are starting to look like classrooms, so it's a really big deal. Just some photos from the Beaman School playground. Off and running. It wasn't a great day in terms of weather, but the kids didn't care at all. I was worried about my shoes, but no one else was. But anyway, the kids were all over it. It handled many kids, more kids than Beaman playground ever been handled before, and probably more than ever will handle again because they had the whole school out there for the ribbon cutting of the playground. But that is operational, and we're really pleased. And again, we thank the PTO so many times because they've been great in leadership. Amanda Silva, and also I want to really thank the school committee for pushing this along, which was great, showed great leadership. But also we want to thank Gary Frisch. Gary Frisch sort of managed us along the way. We made a bold move to we could have waited till the spring for the Beaman playground. Okay, we made a bold move of doing it in November. Then the equipment was delayed till beginning of December, and then there were some weather delays. Weather and scheduling delays, which was a little frustrating, but not but understandable. But able to get it done, personally get it done, and the kids were playing actually 2 weeks ago now, so they started playing. So anyway, just a great job all around. There you go. You can see a lot of kids playing. We got two full swing sets, a slide. An absolutely insane net climbing mountain thing, which the kids love. Sabrina doesn't, but kids do, and that's more important. So there you go. And then I wanted to show, I'm actually having Maria show a new video we created. We introduced families in the community to our elementary schools. So let me stop my share and guess I can share. Really trying. And then we're gonna run a video with audio, and Maria, I think, has got it figured out.
I think.
So this is to introduce families to our elementary schools, get a sense of what they're like, what they feel like, the people that are there, our community, and how great our schools are, and so we'll see what you think. You'll also see that they're on this one, they're Portuguese subtitles, we have English, Spanish, and Portuguese subtitles that folks can look at depending on, just choose the right setting on YouTube. So we can see it now.
Okay, that's good. So. Okay, let's try it.
Mine's gone.
It's okay, Maria, just put his pitch. So a couple things, so we're certainly aware that folks couldn't hear the sound. Oh, geez. Good, so
Demonetized?
but the camera-
behind.
okay.
Yeah, it's behind us.
Nobody can hear it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know how messed up we are. Yeah, they're probably quiet.
It looked awesome.
It's right there, I see it.
Hold on,
Hold
hold
on, hold
on,
on.
hold on.
Be quite with you, Kathy, sorry.
Kathy, the,
Did that drop
there's an
down?
ad talking that we're trying to figure out how to stop. You guys can't hear it at home.
That's it.
There's secret ads.
All right, red circle.
X out that window.
Okay.
Kathy, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me?
I can hear you, but the
Great,
weird
okay.
thing is I could hear you guys, whatever little noise if somebody moved, but you would think I'd be able to hear the video through the
Yeah.
mic that's
Yep,
picking up the
yep.
room.
Yeah, so let me explain. So we understand, everyone who's watching, that we had some technical difficulties with the sound. Sorry about that. We could hear it, you couldn't. But momentarily it'll be going up on the website and on Facebook for our folks to see and hear. And you can not only listen to it, but you can also read along in English or Spanish or Portuguese.
And you
So,
can share it with your friends.
I was just gonna say that.
And you can share with your friends. So
Like it, share it.
yep, like it, share it. Really want to thank the Gloucester Education Foundation. They've been very, very helpful in first funding, but also giving us good guidance. The communication working group that they supported and I mean, that they have helped organize, gave us really good input along the way. So did some parents, principals and others. And just really appreciate their support, and also Mike Gaffney as well, helping out with that. So hope you guys liked it.
It's great. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's really exciting to
Yeah.
see. Yeah, smiling faces, but also just like this sort of technological advance that we're making in our district. It's really lovely.
It's great. And also, I mean, that's still in the Beaman and also West Parish, had a nice sampling of just students and parents and also staff as well. And also really appreciate Clean Immel and Principal Ginodi over Beaman helping us out with it. And so we'll hopefully be able to put some more of those together for middle school, for high school and other things. So, but really want to help folks get a look into our schools and get a sense of what it feels like to be in there. Our elementary schools especially, they're warm, they're welcoming, they're strong family communities, and we hope that came across the video.
Nicely done, really nicely done.
Great, thank you. So I'll pass it off to Amy and Chris then. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the updated PowerPoint. You're moving to, but I used it for the MES one too, so thanks.
Right.
So we're going to talk, Chris Castle and I are going to talk about our EL population for a little bit today. And it's just a fun graphic I wanted to include. But when we go forward, I just want to open up with talking about the 4 domains of learning English language. There's listening, reading, speaking, and writing. I remember learning a new language in high school. I could hear more than I could read or write. So they all come in developmentally different stages. First, they are listening, and then they're speaking comes next. Reading and writing is the slowest one to really gain in a new language. So we measure students' ability for all 4 domains. When they come in, we screen them to see where their starting point is. And then we provide services to help with each of these domains. And then every year during access testing, access testing is actually happening right now. And this is what we're assessing, their growth in these 4 domains. And how we assess them, Chris is going to tell us the levels and how that goes.
Thank you. And I have to say, hard act to follow from that video. My God. But Amy's technical skills are fantastic. So these are all her graphics. Thank you, Amy. So we, our L population, our L families, our L students, critical part of our Gloucester Public Schools. And as we discuss the levels of our L learners, we look at the different levels that they are all assessed on. So we have students that start, level 1 is where they really start. Those are our newcomer students that are coming right in from, a lot of our kids are coming in from Brazil, they're coming in from Guatemala, and they have very little to no English at all. And those are our newcomers, our level 1s. And then as they progress, a level 1 student has a few words, maybe has some letters, some sounds, really can't identify a lot of words in English. Our level 2 students are starting to get there, they're putting together some, they're chunking some short phrases, some sentences, moving on to, our level threes are really more about, learning more about understanding and comprehending. And, our level four students can really start to, read, write, and also have complete thoughts and understand a lot of what's happening, and how to engage in the English language. By the time our level five students, they're really having those complex thoughts in English, and they're able to really engage and be instructed appropriately as, you know, as English learners, and are really acquiring a lot more of our English language. So these are the recommended periods of English language instruction. They are not required by the Department of Education. They are recommended. And as you can see, we start off with the foundational levels, which those are our newcomers in our level 1.0s to 2.5. Those are the students that require more time to learn the English language. So they're acquiring skills. They are really at the beginning stages of developing letters, words, sounds. And then as we move through, it's levels 2.5, 3.5. You know, as you can see, it's just kind of as our students acquire more language, less time is needed for them to receive English language instruction in our classrooms.
Our next slide talks about, some historical growth of EL students in Gloucester. So if you go back as far as FY16, our numbers were very low, or lower. We had a total of 116 students within the district, so with 5 EL teachers. And as you can see, our population has grown significantly over the years. This is, am I? Oh, there we go. I clicked twice. I was like, this is not what I was going to say. Okay, so we'll get back to the growth, but so this is showing our EL students through at each school. So where each student is, whether they're Beaman or East Vets, we've combined them for you. Plum, West Parish, O'Malley, and the high school. I also want to point out when you look at this slide, even the numbers, when you look at, say, Plum Cove, the numbers of EL students are low in comparison to other schools, but their percentage of students that are newcomers, the level 1 or 2, is high. So that affects the amount of instruction needed and support needed. A student in a level 1 or 2 needs significantly more time and support than somebody in a level 4. So when we look at needs across the districts, it's important to look at numbers of EL students, but also their proficiency levels, because it determines the amount of support we need to get. And then I stepped on Chris's toes with this slide. Sorry about that.
Feel free. So as you can see, so this is what our district looks like for 5-year historical L growth. And as Amy was, has already mentioned, from FY16 to where we currently are, our numbers have grown. We have grown in staff a bit, but our numbers have grown. Look at the numbers for October 1. For FY22, we're at 248. Currently, we're at 300, and I just looked before I came in. We have 329 LEP students. So we've even grown from the 322 that, from honestly 2 weeks ago. So we are a growing district, which is fantastic.
And then
and then I wanted to talk a little bit about our strengths of our L programming. So we've been very fortunate. We've done a lot of work with our families, just engaging them, making them feel welcome, making them feel part of our community, and really engaging with them and showing them the road to good instruction, how to advocate for themselves, advocate for their students, increasing our family engagement, and just really supporting resources and support for all of our L students and families. We've had we've had all wonderful experiences, just kind of getting the communication going with our families. They've been very receptive. They feel very comfortable and confident with us. They feel they can trust us, which is a really big part of what we do every day with our students, but also with our families. They understand that they can come to us if they're having issues with housing instability or food instability, anything like that. They can come to us for confidential we'll help them as we can. And everyone, the entire community, all of our staff, our teachers, they've really gotten behind our families, and they are just wonderful supports. So I feel really happy with the progress we've made with all of our family and community engagement. We've also added some family and community engagement liaisons that are multilingual, which is fantastic because they're able to communicate with our families in, multiple languages. And they're our wonderful support because we also have the opportunity to explain to our families and our students as well that being bilingual is really a gift. And we want to make sure that they feel that way. So every time we work with our students and our families come in and they're just stressed about registration or stressed about something, we share with them, there's no reason to be stressed. We want to help you. And it's not that we want them to learn English and forget all about their language. We want them to be bilingual, multilingual, so that they have more opportunities, and it's really a gift. So we do a lot of work with that. Cultural belonging training. We've done some training with all of our staff, with our front office staff, and just showing them ways and working with them to ensure that they have the tools necessary to work with our families, all of our families, and everyone's been really receptive. So we're really proud of the work that we're doing.
And moving forward, we want to build on the wonderful things we've already done. And I mentioned this a little bit in the PD presentation a few weeks ago. So we have done a tremendous job, as Chris outlined, as far as connecting with our families, having them feel welcomed, getting them part of the community. But now we really need to focus on the curriculum and instruction and moving them forward. So some things that we are working to strengthen our EL program is some professional development, particularly around sheltered English immersion strategies that all teachers can use to help support EL students within the classroom and help them be successful while acquiring the English language. So we're going to work on some professional collaboration. We're going to have some training and work on that and really have a focus. That, of course, aligns with our plan for ongoing improvement. We're gonna be tired of saying that all year long for years and years and years, but we're gonna stay focused and go in the same direction. So it is part of our plan, and we're gonna keep moving in that direction. Another thing we need to add or research to pilot over time and implement is a curriculum, particularly for newcomers. So because our populations were so low in years past, and we have grown exponentially rapidly, our curriculum hasn't caught up. And teachers have been filling that void. They're doing wonderful work and they're researching and they're doing the best they can, but the curriculum is not consistent for newcomers across the district. And it's very important that it is. So we are researching different curriculums that we will pilot and then implement so that we have a consistent curriculum for newcomers that support them when they come to Gloucester Public Schools. So that will take a few years to go through that process, but we are going to be starting that very soon as far as starting researching different programs that we might want to pilot. And then the last thing, we haven't talked too much about that here at the school committee, but there's a tiered focus monitoring that we had this year with on our EL program. So the state came in and Chris did a wonderful job for presenting all kinds of programs, and then they came and spoke to teachers and they spoke to principals and they observed and they looked at our files and they did all kinds of things. And then they come back with recommendations on how to improve. We do not have the final report yet because it's in process, but we got a little peek in. She got the exit interview and a peek into some of the things that we need to work on. Some of them are very easy clerical fixes, where files are, how we keep our record keeping for EL students. Those are we're working on right now to have cleaned up very, very quickly. And then there's the larger issues. And I was happy to see that they match what we already knew. So far, we're hearing that we need a consistent curriculum for EL students. We need more SEI strategies within every classroom. So these are at least two examples of things I'm happy that we had an idea, that we knew where we needed to go, and the state agreed with us. There might be other findings when we get the full report, but those are the overarching ones that we know that the very small clerical ones we've already met with EL staff beginning of January and gave like a list of things we just need to clean up. And then the larger things we're going to be working on over time. Okay, and then that's it. Any questions or?
Anybody else want to go first? You know, one thing I'm wondering about, the screen is so bright, let me bring that down. So, you know, it's focusing on like individual students. You ever like witness like continual progress from one year to the next, or do kids kind of like revert or like stagnate?
Well, with learning anything that you can have regression if you're not practicing it, right? Reading, whether it's in English or any language,
Yeah.
sometimes students have a little regression over summer. We hope not to have that. But it's tremendous to watch students learn the English language. At least I have more experience at the elementary level because of my previous job. But to watch them acquire the language is really tremendous. Oftentimes they have like a silent period where they'll come in and they're just listening. And they're just kind of taking it all in. And then they'll start to, use a few words, and then they have this burst of language, and it is the most beautiful thing to watch.
So that's like early in the school year, you're saying?
Well, it depends on their level of language that they come in with. It depends on their age. Neurologically, it's easier to learn a language when you're younger. So if somebody comes in as a junior in high school, it's a little hard and has never spoken English. It's a harder task to take. If I had to go learn Spanish and just work in a Spanish environment, I would have to take a really long time to learn because I'm a lot older. But so it depends on their level when they come in. It depends on their age. It depends on, is their English also spoken at home, or do they only hear it at school? So if they only hear it the few hours that they're at school, they're not acquiring it as much as they can.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of picking up on my concern. I'm wondering if they go through the summer and they're just like balkanizing their community, speaking their native language. Is there anything that we're doing or could
Yes.
do over the summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to speak, sure. I'm just going, but
That's, so yes, and I'm glad you both mentioned, so a lot of our students are the translators for their families.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail right on the head. They're going home and they're speaking Spanish and they're speaking Portuguese with their families because it's the only translation the families have, right? And as Amy said, the younger they are, the quicker they pick up the language. But we have had summer programs. Last year we had a newcomer academy at O'Malley Academy for students in grades 6 through 8. And Mr. Lamas came over one of the days and was able to see the students there. And we're talking students that came in with no English at all. And the sentences, the words, the language that they had acquired, it was just, it was wonderful to see. They were asking the superintendent questions. They were excited about learning. And not only were they able to make such progress, but they also were able to then, get a job. So they were excited because, okay, now I can speak English and I can go and get a job for a few hours so that I can help my family and support my family. So we also had a remote summer school for our K to 5 students, and it was remote because that was what families were asking for. I've been speaking with Amy, and we are going to have a summer component as well this year, just so that we don't have that regression.
Yeah.
So students get at least a little bit of the conversational piece, the reading piece, the writing. And our L programs for the summer have always had a family component. So an hour each week, the teacher will meet with the family. It's usually over Zoom, or it can be in person as well. And they discuss kind of tips for helping with homework, tips for supporting your child during the summer. What can we do? What can they do? And that's been really helpful. We've had parents that are really excited about that interaction because, again, they just want their student to be able to not have that regression in the summer as well. So it's
I think
great.
that's the
It's been
key
great
to,
for
like,
awareness.
progressing, exponentially.
Yeah.
Is actually using that language, being amongst your peers that speak English, and just immersion. I mean, what was the SEI? Is that sheltered?
Sheltered English immersion, exactly, that's
Yeah,
you're being immersed
yeah.
in English language, yeah.
And I think that when we started our EL summer program 2 years ago, that was the first time we've done that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
that work is new.
Yeah.
A lot of our K to 5 summer programs, including our EL summer programs, are being funded by federal grants related to COVID relief. We have one more summer with that, I believe. And they've been really successful. All of our programs have been, whether it's O'Malley or K to 5. So that's just something that we're keeping an eye on. It's something that, is initially started because of, making for pandemic learning loss. I think folks see that continues, but also that there's a lot of value in some programs. So, so we'll see what we can do to keep those going, because it's really been beneficial to students and families.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask about the sort of, I know there's been a lot of outreach to families and sort of trying to bring families into the schools and sort of engage them. I'm just wondering how that's going. I know we did a big push this year especially. And I'm wondering, how receptive families are, if we feel like families are getting. My understanding is the goal is to sort of engage more EL families and have them come in. And I'd love to know how that's going.
Absolutely. So we've had coffee hours. So that's what seems to be really effective for bringing our families in. And we have our translators there. And this year, we started them last year, but this year our numbers have grown. And our families, they feel very comfortable, very confident coming to the school. They feel like they really belong. And it's been at these coffee hours that I have to be honest, that we're getting a lot of that interaction of, these are what our needs are. Can you help us? Can you help me find this? Can you help me? Can you point me in the direction? I can't get medical help. And if I can't provide it, I'll lead them to somebody that can. And our organizations, in the community have been fantastic, but our coffee hours have been really, really successful. And then we also have had, we've had those K to 12. And then also our LPAC is up and running, which is our English Language Parent Advisory Council, similar to a PTO, but it's really just for our EL families. And that has been, it's been successful. We've wanted to grow. We've got 7 consistent members, but we'd love it to be more. And again, it's our families telling us what their needs are. So, they've told us what they would like to see happen that would make it easier for them to work with their children. So we've got a couple of things that we're working with them. And we're trying to move forward in the direction of meeting their needs even more so. So for example, a lot of our families are looking for English classes. They want to learn the English language. So we're working, we've been working really hard to partner up with someone that can provide that. And we've got a space, we've got a location, we've got childcare. It's just getting, really just getting a good partner that's going to be able to meet the needs of the families. That has been the biggest ask, I'll be honest. So English classes and transportation, those are the 2 big asks. And we've been working on them. We hopefully will have things up and going with our English classes, fingers crossed, for beginning of March. And it's really been fantastic to see the families, to see them come in and be able to ask questions and have their needs met. We've had some
provide
success.
transportation for them to come to the schools.
So CADA, so when we have our LPAC meetings, that's where they're struggling with transportation. So we have them at the Y because that's a central location. Some of them, and it was, for me, it was a rainy day and we had 3 families that walked. And I was, oh my gosh, why did you, we couldn't get CADA. So we brought catering and we had a conversation with them. How can we meet, what can we do? So that meeting just happened with CADA. So we're going to be working with them to see how we can provide some, whatever we can do to get families to where they need to be so that they can be more involved with their child's education or get to English classes or whatever it is they need to get to.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
I just want to commend you and your team and the district for all the work that you're doing. I mean, to not only sort of build relationships, but build trust with families that don't speak our language, who are new to this country, is a hard thing to do. And I think we're doing an incredible job. And it's evident in the fact that they're asking for help and they're coming to us for that assistance. It's huge. And it's something that I think we've made enormous strides over the last couple of years. So the one thing I'll say is when I worked at Pathways, they provided vouchers through a cab company. So I don't know if that's another avenue. We would just pay the cab, they would give the voucher to cab company, or it was free through, I don't know exactly how the payment system worked, but we just provided the voucher and, so I know that people do it.
That's great. Thank you.
Good work.
Or to say a couple of minutes. Thanks to Samantha for that, for those comments, because I think it's super important. One to acknowledge the work our staff, the committee's invested in EL family liaisons K-8 and also 9 to 12, and then Vanessa Lindbergh at 9 and 12, and then Augustina Parsons at pre-K through 8, as well as Chris and others helping out, and that's something we've done very well, is those connections, that trust, that sense of belonging, and sometimes welcoming and openness. And I just will always say, Gloucester in so many ways is a city of immigrants. Families have come, from a long time ago to the city from far away, and they're coming, to this very day from far away. And that can be far away within our own country. We get more families coming from the south these days, but that can also be from countries, countries far away. And I will always, these are the folks who built the city, and not only that, as I've said before, folks who who the city has sort of built our traditions around, and also these families, whether it was a family 3 generations ago or a family now, that challenge, that risk, though, that courage to come here when in a culture very different from your own, language often very different from your own, and to seek a better place for yourself for whatever reason, and then contribute to this community, it is an astounding feat. It's something that I've got tremendous respect for, and I think our staff has tremendous respect for, and I really appreciate how we've done such a good job, and the community supported us on supporting our English learners, and then also now that stepping up to the next step of making sure the quality of instruction and curriculum matches our intentions on belonging and welcoming. So just that there, these folks, our English learners, our immigrant families, or friends from far away, or they think are part of our community or schools, and I always want them to do it. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
I think it's my turn again. Yeah. Right. Going to go back to. Chris can go. Yes. Right. So last thing for our report is an update on the Amelia project. Let me just do the slideshow here. Some good updates, and also some shifts in timing on this. Still have what's going on Amelia. All right, so these are different modules in terms of the process, and this is one way of looking at the timeline. The design is 100% completed, and the general contractor has been selected. Okay, so that's like a very important step. Okay, I'll give you some more details on that in a moment. So what's been done since the fall and to now, we've got a local approval for the project funding that happened with City Council's vote after the school committee recommended it in November. The project funding agreement with MSBA is in place now. The project went out to bid. Bid submittals have already been in, and also approval. So at this point, and that was all managed by Left Field, or our owner project manager, and then working with the schools, obviously, primarily Gary Frisch, but also the City of Gloucester administration and Civitex with the architects. And then all that process of bid documents being completed, out to bid, and bid submitted and accepted happened December and January. Okay, so these are the general bids received. You can see these 4 bids were accepted. A range of estimates on those. You'll see that there was a base cost, which is for the whole project, and then there were actually 3 alternates. I'll explain those in a moment. Alternate 1 was for window treatment, so that was the highest priority alternate. Alternate 2 was for the dome, which is the skylight and clear stories in the library, and then there was a 3rd alternate, which is electrical and access control. The way the windows are constructed in the cafeteria has impact on electrical systems there. And also we want to have door access control because we're replacing doors as well at a few more spots in O'Malley. So those are, accessed by electronic card readers. Anyway, alternate 3, we removed from the scope and altered and we'll rebid that, or actually have rebid that. Because initial concerns just about the cost of that from some of the initial sub bids. So in order to follow proper procurement laws, we pulled it and removed the scope and it changed pretty significantly. And then it's been rebid. So anyway, by procurement laws, we take the lowest bid, which you can see is Lambrey Construction. And the good news for the bid is that it's under a budget. So I'm going to try to explain this. I tried to make this clear, and I'm not sure if I did create this table, but I'll go through it and we'll see what happens. The base cost of their bid was $4.9 million about. Then you add in alternative 1, which is window treatments, adds $36,000. Then you add in alternative 2, which is the dome, $262,000. That total is in the yellow, $5.17 million. The project funding agreement from MSBA was for $5.3 million. Okay, so if you take green and subtract yellow, you get blue, because green and yellow make blue, right? Got that? Pretty good, right?
Nice.
Okay, and so the reason that's in the parentheses because their bid was $150,000 about below the project funding agreement. That's good, but there also was allowed contingency in the PFA and MSA. What MSA agreed with us. That was $265,000. Okay, so you add the blue and the red, you get purple. Okay, so essentially with the bid and the contingencies at this point, we have a variance in our favor of just over $400,000. Okay, that's important. You always want to maintain the contingency, and you like bids to come under what you estimated. So that's positive. Any questions about that before I go on? Because now we have some adjustments. So let me talk about schedule. And so we've always known this was on an aggressive time frame. And when we first went out to bid, we were starting to get left field was getting information from people who were considering bidding that they weren't going to bid because of concern about the time frame. Okay, but and then the time frame for windows. But they're concerned about a certain part of that, and that was the clear stories and the dome and the curtain wall.
For those who don't know what a clerestory is, it's a skylight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you think about O'Malley specifically,
I learned that later.
if you're in the commons area, you look up, it's those windows, fixed windows that are sort of at the very top on the sort of the corner of the roof, basically. Okay, and then we have similar on hallways. Actually, up there in a moment, and similar in the cafeteria. So those are the things that folks were very concerned about time frame. The regular windows, it's tight, but everything was doable. So once we adjust the timeline, and I'll explain that in a moment, on a part of the project, then we were able to get four qualifying bids, basically. Okay, so let's go through the timeline. We are finalizing the contract with Lambrey right now. We awarded the contract. We're finalizing now. They're getting going on working with their architect to do the final design stuff, so they can procure the windows. Right, it'll take about 13 weeks for the windows to come in, we believe. Window fabrication, and that will happen now in June, essentially. May to June. We get to July, August. That's when demo will happen and installation of new window systems in all the classrooms. Okay, I'll show that to you on a map in a moment. All the windows really except those clear stories. The media center curtain wall, which is sort of get back 2-story windows that go from the media center down to the science lab. We call that a curtain wall. And then also the dome. Okay. We expect that will happen in July of 2024. Let me just go back to September 2023. Here's the third column. There probably will be some continuing into the school year, some second shift. After school is closed, just continue to work, that sort of stuff, and to clean up and that sort of stuff, and just to sort of finish this summer's work, and then we'll begin again next summer to finish the clear stories, the curtain wall, and the dome, and the project will be closed out. We are limiting the word I keep forgetting, the potential increase in cost because we're doing some of the work in summer 2024, we'll order all those windows in Clearstory now. Okay, it doesn't, they won't come in probably till August, so we can't install them. So we're not concerned about price increases on those because we're waiting to install them, and they'll be stored by the contractor. But essentially, we show you on the map here. You think if you're looking over bird's eye view of O'Malley. The red outline, which is you can see the exterior walls of the building across all floors. Those are all the classroom windows will be replaced. And then the green ones that are shaded will be, this is the cafeteria here, the hallway leading to the student commons here, the library, and then this hallway as well. Those are the areas that'll be done in summer 2024. They can't be done during the school year at all because they're all passageways. They're all lots of activity in all those throughout the school day, that sort of thing. There's no way to not have the hallway, the cafeteria working. That'd be bad. So things like that. Any questions about that shift in schedule and timing on that? Okay, pretty straightforward. And then these are just the key dates, just another way of looking at it, but as you can see, same thing. Doing all the work now to make the submittals, order materials, get them on site. And then just let the last piece is folks asked about O'Malley Academy and working with Lynn already about just where O'Malley Academy would be. And there are enough interior rooms that don't have windows. And also a lot of O'Malley Academy happens in the auditorium or gymnasium or library. We're actually not using that this summer. So, but there's enough space in terms of O'Malley for them to shift folks around as the summer goes along. So that's it.
We do have to do the calendar soon.
Calendars under superintendent's.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. This is hers again.
Yeah. Putting it on the screen.
Yeah.
So we are looking, oh, you go ahead.
I'll explain that. So somewhere around December to January, we always start getting questions in schools. What about the calendar and the end of school and when does camp start? Some of you, I might have gotten an email from some of you about that sort of thing.
Parents are very anxious
Yeah.
about camps.
And so I know a few places that actually do a 2-year calendar. And then which really can allows folks to look ahead and know start and end date. Really good. Mostly, the in-school vacations are pretty predictable. Except for maybe start and end those, but the start of school and the school is always sort of up in the air. And so I thought we would give a shot of do the next 2 years calendars, and then every year from now we would just do these the second year ahead calendar. So always approve a calendar every year, but it would be not for the upcoming year, but for the following year. So Amy's going to go through this. She's going to talk about a few things here, point out a few things. And then get some input from the school committee if necessary, and then finalize that and bring back any changes, bring back to you in 2 weeks for the vote.
So input is the definite word for this week. So because I've shared this calendar with some GTA representation to get their input. This morning, I shared it with leadership to get their input, and now I'm getting yours. There is one change I want to speak to that leadership has requested, and I'll explain why. It's not reflected on this because the packet was already sent out to you, so I didn't want to change it without having a conversation. So if we look at 23-24 school year, it's very similar to our current. I think I would be able to do it full screen. That made it worse. Well, now. That's darling. I don't know if I can zoom in, but I'll speak to it. Oh, sorry. You want to try to zoom? So
The calendar is very similar to this calendar year as far as when professional development falls for the most part. For example, the first Tuesday in December, we had a half day. The next year, the first Tuesday in December, we'll have a half day. So I didn't make any drastic changes as far as that's concerned. According to contract, in 23, we should start after Labor Day. The following year, when we get to the next calendar, we will start. I don't know, before calendar now, the following year, we start after Labor Day. Because in the contracts, it's very specific on if Labor Day falls on the first, second, or third, we start after Labor Day. If it falls after that, we start before. So
We always have the Friday off.
right, but when we get to the next year, we'll talk about that because that's a little different.
Okay.
So start date in August 2023 is August 29th.
28th for staff, 29th for students.
Yep.
And the primary day we have as a professional development day in September. And then
Or this early release stuff.
early release,
Super. Oh, perfect.
professional development, early release day, excuse me. And in October, we have the conferences as normal, where Columbus Day is held. Our November 7th would be the full day professional development day. That would be no school for students, but staff would come. And November 10th, we are celebrating Veterans Day because Veterans Day falls on a Saturday that year. The holiday break is in there. It's pretty simple. And then this brings us to a last day of school without any snow days as June 11th.
Actually, can I just ask you a question?
Yes,
So you have the September 19th as primary day?
yes,
Is that, do you know that?
That's a Gloucester specific day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only the only kind of for a primary this fall is Gloucester elections.
Okay,
So,
so
and the
there's
only
nothing
real,
from the state.
sorry,
There's
there's
nothing,
no, it's not a statewide election.
okay.
So, and the only reason that Gloucester would need a primary is the mayoral race. It's unlikely to have a primary for school committee or
Right.
or city council. It could because it depends.
In the year I ran the first time, because we had 13 instead of 12.
but it's a nice time to have a half day early release for professional development as well.
And just to raise, because parents have been concerned about having school at all on that day.
So that's some input I would love to hear from the committee as far as voting days.
Right.
There are different ways to do this in terms of you could do it based on what type of primary day it was, okay? Principals and others, community members this past year were concerned about having the schools open on primary days. We have 4 schools now who have voting: Beaman, East Gloucester, that's did and will again, GHS, and then Plum. Now, historically, voting at Plum actually happened at Lanesville Community Center, and then it's transferred to Plum. But like, I think we're gonna switch it back to Lanesville Community Center. It's easier, actually easier parking for folks, honestly. And then there's quite with EGS, obviously being, demolished and turned into a park. How many wards may vote at East Veterans? Okay.
Most parents also votes too.
In the school?
They have the voting.
She wasn't there this morning.
That's right. Thank you
She
very
missed
much.
that meeting and that's why she didn't say it. Yes.
And I said to the principal,
Yeah.
I said to the principals, I can never keep
Yeah,
this
there's
straight.
2 Ward 5.
Yeah.
To West Virginia. So,
So this is a decision I didn't want to make without input from you. So I know that this has been a historical concern with the community and, staff. So this is a decision that I would like your input on. Do you want me to go through the rest of the calendar, then we come back to it, or do you want to pause there for this?
Can I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add something? We also received, I think maybe superintendent myself from an email from Joanne Sinos asking us to consider that day of the primary and no school day. So I just want to send along that feedback.
Just one question. So obviously, at least from my perspective, a Gloucester only primary day is very different than a state or federal election. 24 will be a federal election day, I guess.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
It seems like it would be very hard to be flexible on that, right? If we don't know that there will be a primary in Gloucester this year, I would hate to miss that,
Right,
I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, right? So we can't really,
right.
I think from the feedback we got, just in general, from parents, I think people are more comfortable with it not being a school day, just in general. And I think it's probably safe to just, that's just my opinion anyway, to just across the board of primary days, not have school. I don't know how other people feel.
and so what we would do at this point is, I mean, if we went this way, which getting input now, we're getting, input from the principals as well, is that would be a day off.
Yeah.
We can't add a professional development day, obviously, that's an additional work day, right? Without negotiating.
We would have to move the half day to another day because in the contract, there's so many half-day professional
That's right,
development
yes,
days.
right.
So another day would
Usually-
become a professional development.
Yeah, you have to, still have to have a school at some point.
Right.
So you can't make that day a half-day professional development day,
It is, that's what we
That's
have.
what I have
that's
it
what we
as.
now,
the 19th?
yes.
Yes.
But if you're saying that you would rather not to have school in session, if there's a possibility of voting in the school, then it would have to be a day off. Because if we wanted to make it a full professional development day, it would be an added work day. And that's a contractual thing, and that's not, so we can't just do that, but it would be a day off. And I would have to, or we would have to move the half-day early release for professional development to a different day in the calendar somewhere, because there needs to be 5
And you have to, and you extend the school year by
And
day.
by one day, which would make for 23, 24, the last day would be June 11th, 12th.
And what kind of arrangements can we make for childcare? Because as much as there's a concern for voting in the schools, there's a concern for working parents not having.
We could work with our community partners like the YMCA and Pathways. We would let them know ahead of time. And oftentimes when we don't have school, they provide something.
I think Kathy is, Russia to new or still, or.
I think that, Kathy, do you need?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I think to Melissa's point, I think she was getting at is it possible, and I'm not sure I'm in favor, I'm not speaking one way or the other, but that day being a half-day professional development day for teachers without kids in the school. So I'm just putting that out there, and I have I haven't thought whether I like it or dislike it.
But we
So,
have to
and I
pay
don't,
them.
and I
It
don't
would be an
expect you
extra
to
work
respond.
day.
But because the kids aren't in school, it doesn't count as a school day for them, so we're
Ah.
paying teachers to work an extra day, because that's right
Got
where I
it,
was with
okay.
you.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Which is something, I mean, I think that there's value in actually doing the PD day, but of course, again, we have to negotiate that.
Right.
It's not a insignificant amount of dollars.
So do you want to see the rest of the calendar, then we
Yeah,
can make that
yeah,
decision?
yeah.
Okay, so that is the question for September. The rest of the calendar looks relatively similar to this year, but I do want to point out March 19th. When I presented this calendar to leadership, Principal Cook pointed this out, and then I remembered this was a problem a couple of years ago. MCAS schedules haven't come out yet for the following year, right? And they often like to take for high school MCAS the last 2 Tuesdays of March. And we would not want to have a half day be an MCAS day. So I am proposing, after getting feedback from leadership, of changing that March 19th half-day professional development day to March 12th, just a week earlier. And no principal had all of the input I've reached out for hasn't had a problem with that, and I just want to run it by you before I do it. Okay, yeah. And then on the open house days, they are just typical of what they were this year. as far as the Thursday of whichever week, depending on the grade level.
So, have you checked sort of various cultures?
I'm so happy you asked me that, because I did.
Nicely done.
And you'll notice in 20, we didn't even plan this, Laura. In the fall of 24, you'll notice all of the open houses start a week later, because remember, we're starting after Labor Day. And you'll notice there's a gap between K through 5 and pre-K open houses, because that week in the middle, I believe, is Rosh Hashanah.
Fantastic. And have we checked though, I mean, I don't know, when Ramadan, like,
I would take feedback. I have checked.
okay,
But I've checked because via Google search, so as long as my search is correct, we're good. But I would love it if anybody notices a mistake, I'd love that.
I would just love, maybe even from Chris, I would just love input on the cultures that would have fall or spring or whatever
Yep.
holidays that we should be aware of.
Yes,
I mean, I can speak to mine, but
absolutely.
there are other cultures that I'd like to have represented here.
I did a decent first look.
No, I think that's
But
fantastic.
I can't say I might not have missed something.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Veterans Day, why are we celebrating on Friday?
so
It's not a
because
State thing.
Veterans Day is on the 11th and the state celebrates it, they don't? Again, that was
They
nice.
often celebrate on the day of, correct? They don't.
Right,
Saturday, usually they give you a personal day or something, but they would, I know, I work for the state, we're not shut down Friday. So, I don't know, I didn't know if it was contractual somewhere. 'cause I
Yeah,
know-
let's double check. I know, and I can't remember our contracts, I haven't looked at it on this specific, but sometimes if
If it's
this
a
day
Sunday,
is that.
sometimes it goes to the Monday,
Yeah,
but on
yeah.
a Saturday,
So-
usually you get,
yeah.
like, they'll get the paid holiday still in their paycheck, but not necessarily the day off.
Look at that.
Quick
So
question.
we should also check what the city's doing for the.
Yeah, but it's families I'm worried about not being necessarily compatible with the city. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
Just if that day is off, is there a reason not to move the no school day closer to that day so that it's a,
So the 7th is a voting day.
Right, that's.
okay. I see, that makes more sense.
Yeah. That,
Well, the starts and stops.
that week in November is often very chunky because you have the voting day, you have Veterans Day.
Okay, that makes sense.
and remember, on Fridays, he only works till noontime anyway.
Okay. So we can check on the 10th. And if we took the 19th of September off and then put the 10th back in, our last day would be back to the 11th.
Back to the regular.
Right,
day.
so that's an idea, okay.
So I can look into that. Okay, and then if we look at 24, 25, we are starting after Labor Day, so there's no Friday off because it's after the Labor Day. But so we would start on Tuesday, the 3rd with staff, on Wednesday, the 4th with students.
Amy, can you move the slide?
Oh, yep,
Thanks.
thank you. And then depending on what you decide about the primary day, that 17th of September would be either a day off or it would be a half day professional development day.
That's a federal election.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, so that would be, it should be there.
Yeah, I think that's because there's gonna be a lot more voting that year.
yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, and then, let's see, October is pretty much the same, November, the 11th is on a Monday. And then again, from Principal Cook's input, that March 25th day, I actually would like to move to the 11th, because remember I said MCAS is often the last 2 Tuesdays of March, and there was a couple years ago where we had to revise the calendar because of that, so I'm trying to avoid that ahead of time.
And what about the 13th being a half day? So they're getting a day and a half off that week?
Yeah. It's 2 early releases in a week.
That's a lot.
So the 13th is going to match, that's the parent conference day for elementary school or Pre-K through
Well, you
eight,
could
actually.
swap them, you could put the 13th to the 27th. You could.
Right, but then it would be after report cards. You want that parent conferences to be around report cards.
Can we move it to the sixth?
I might be, if I count the days out, because we started late, you maybe could go to the 20th.
I just don't like having 2 days in a week.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Totally got that, but that's a good catch. That-
Yeah,
that-
I agree
you know
with you.
something, that happens the same in March 2024. Oh, no, you moved to 12th, sorry.
No, I went to the 12th,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. And then with this, starting after Labor Day, and going to school on September 17th, which might change. Our final day would be June 17th. So if we took off September 17th, that would make our last day without snow days, June 18th. The other addition to both calendars is I have marked Juneteenth. You remember, I think it was last year, it wasn't on the calendar and it was a state holiday and our snow days went past Juneteenth. So was this some confusion or just lack of communication because they didn't know? So I put it on the calendar just so people know it's there. That would not be a school day.
Great. Just as a question, so contractually, that thing about Labor Day, if it's after, starting later is just part of our contract.
Yes,
And there's specific days, like dates, sit down, remember first, if Labor Day is on the first, second, or third, or fourth Labor Days. Start
and
before,
after.
after Labor Day. If it's on the other days, we start before. So it's really by the dates.
And if it starts before, they get the Friday off.
Right, no, I see, it's just a very late end of school.
It is.
And
it's
that
kinda-
without snow days, so.
We don't get to
Snow a lot, though, we have to go into the 2021st,
Right,
22nd.
Yeah, right, we don't know about that.
We don't have as many snow days anymore.
Good news is that. Not this summer, but the following summer is longer.
That's
Right,
what I
because
said.
we can start
That's
out,
what I was
yeah,
asking,
so,
I think this summer that might be short.
yeah,
Right,
so. All right,
Any other
Great summer, I'm looking forward to it.
questions or?
I think it's good that we're sending a message about the voting in the schools, that, we share the same concerns and
Okay.
accommodate that as a priority, because
Yeah.
in this day and age, with all that's going on in the world, the less outsiders in the school with children, the better.
And our principals were,
Yeah.
the same way, so,
Right.
yeah, good, that's great.
It's just
Okay.
common sense at this point.
So just so I am making,
Jan, I can more and more communities, when I reached out to other communities because of the concern that some families raised. I was surprised to see how many communities aren't voting in schools anymore.
right, that's the other option.
We gave other options, our options seem pretty limited, honestly.
Yeah.
But, either not having school or not voting in school, so.
A question about that, because since like we do our early voting at City Hall, I mean, I'm just wondering if we only have a municipal election. This is not, the mayor's not here, this isn't a question for us. But, I mean, it's a question, like, could we vote at City Hall
Yeah, for that primary day.
for that
So-
primary day?
It's actually,
It's access, right?
right, I've learned a few things about this, working with Joancinos, and ultimately, in order, if you don't have a polling place in a ward, you have to get actually legislative approval. for
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
that. So, yeah, there's some pretty,
It's access to a place
Yeah,
to go
that makes
for all.
which we still support access to all.
yeah, right,
Everybody,
everybody.
They would have to set up buses and everything else, and
some places do.
Okay. So, I'm hearing no school on voting days.
Yeah.
I will look into November 10th. I'm moving the March professional development out of the MCAS zone. And in 2025, I will also adjust the parent conferences so that it doesn't fall the same week.
and just warn the parents that in 2024, it's gonna be a long vacation at Christmas time.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to look at that, just, right,
Which is gonna be great for traveling for people who want to travel.
right, so 2024 is a very long vacation.
Yeah.
Because the
I think it's 2 extra days.
Monday, I'm trying to understand that January 2024. Monday, the 1st is off as well as the 2nd.
Right, so if you look at,
I was wondering why that happens.
Wait, what day is it?
Okay, wait, January 2025?
24.
24 as-
Oh.
Because the Sunday holiday, they usually celebrate on Monday.
Right, but this gives us
What Sunday holiday?
That's a Tuesday.
So the first,
Tuesday.
oh wait, I'm looking at September, sorry.
Tuesday. Monday.
I'm wondering why the Tuesday is off.
Wait, it said January 25, only the first.
24.
24 what next?
Because
Yeah, why is that?
value, we're getting out, or quite, so it's a balance, right? End of the year versus a vacation within, okay? And just like this year, we figured, give that extra day, some more schools are doing. It's you know, it helps families.
Wait, what do we do? Why? do we do this?
I didn't even see that.
Because, so if you look at December 2023, all right,
Yeah,
we're getting out on the full week of week of the 18th. Okay,
Which is what we did this year.
we had a full week plus the Friday this year. The Friday before was off.
Yeah.
23rd was off this year. Okay.
Right.
Then we had second, which was the Monday. Okay, so it's the same length as this year. Okay, because we got off on the 22nd, we came back on the 3rd. Okay, it just happens that the second now isn't that Monday right afterward. Okay, we essentially just shifted the days. Okay, but it's the same length as this current year.
see, I don't agree with that because I think that puts pressure on families working, because people are going back to work on the second.
Okay.
Okay.
Not that I don't want to give anybody more time, but, and I do, but at the same time, I'm trying to balance the staying out when voting, but at the same time, how do we address, because I know I hear a lot of complaints about, oh, it's half day again, or why don't they have school? Because it's a frustration for parents who just don't have care. And that's a day you really can't explain. To me, it doesn't, I didn't notice that, and I'm just, it's surprising a little bit, not saying I don't agree with the superintendent's explanation and don't want to encourage more family time.
I also have a question about that day.
But I mean, we can talk about adding family time on other days too, you know, so if we're gonna start doing family time days.
It's not extensive. It's a long vacation. It's
Yeah.
a typically long vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a longer one, right? You know, the shortest we ever get is 5 days, and I actually wouldn't recommend that. But it's not an extensively long vacation. The next year is longer. Because the way the calendar falls, this happens every X number of years. It's actually quite a bit longer. You know, it could be easily 2 weeks, but we're choosing to come back on the 2nd, so it's not 2 weeks. Right, but it's already, it's at least 1 day longer than just by where the calendar falls than next year.
My feedback is to have school on the second. I don't know how others feel, but that's how I feel.
I don't know. I was just pointing it out and thinking, you know, yeah, we need a good explanation for why. That's what I was looking for. I don't know. It's a hardship on families, and then I think I'm leaning towards. You know.
It's not like a lot of them they don't have free hair, like some do, some don't.
Yeah.
So it's an extra burden.
That would be skiing, like. I think that day.
But what does
skiing.
Rockport
I don't know
do?
where I-
What does
I'm not
Manchester do?
surprised.
Do they add those days? I mean, to me, it's not normal. I've never seen this before in my years of approving calendar.
I mean, like typically, I'm just wondering what's typical, like, okay, how many days off from school do we typically take?
So this was exactly what we took off this year. We took it off because when the calendar fell, in terms of the second being the holiday celebrate on the 2nd. So it's more about days, not when the days fall. And this is not an atypical length of a school vacation. It's not a longer one, it's not, you know.
I didn't know we had a set time for how many days the Christmas vacation.
I'm not saying, but I understand what you just,
So what you're saying it's about time, not days, right? I'm just trying to follow you.
no,
not-
I think the claim is that this is a longer vacation.
No, I was talking about next year, just the way the calendar fell, because that's how I see it, right? Next year, the way the calendar falls, it is a longer vacation. But But this year, I don't see a reason to make the same amount of days by adding a second.
I see more reason to say, take the week, or call it here, the 22nd, before Christmas. Rather than having half a day, you know, if you want to add some more time, you could add a half a day. I mean, does that make any sense? Rather than doing the early release. I mean, if we
Well-
want to like, trying to split the baby here. That way it
Did you
won't
get
look so
feedback
odd.
from teachers on this?
I sat with GTA reps, yes, the representative from GTA.
And did they have an opinion on that or that night?
And they were okay with it and. that's it. It's actually a. The 24 is at 1 to 2 days longer
Yeah,
based on whether we come back
Because of the
again.
calendar.
Yes, because of
Yeah.
the calendar.
But we have that every year, the way the calendar
Yeah.
falls, right? So that, I haven't heard us having conversations to try to keep up with the amount of days versus how the calendar falls. This is the first I'm hearing that type of philosophy.
I honestly don't feel very strongly either way.
I'm not sure, just looking to see, so it's not a federal
do you miss
holiday.
Kathy ever?
I think she's not on right now. Her computer died.
I think it's putting pressure on the families, and we don't need to.
Any more input?
Any thoughts about the 22nd before Christmas?
Well, I mean, I was sort of thinking about that, like, that's kind of a torturous week for some. Having to be a full week.
And people, I mean, people are gonna leave. If they're leaving. Either way is fine.
I mean, a lot of, a long time before Christmas, the 22nd.
Let's just think, I guess, I'm not sure.
Okay, well. I don't think we have,
Be an extra
Any
travel
travel
day
day.
too before Christmas. You know,
what,
extra travel day if they're traveling before Christmas.
We'll bring a revised calendar back.
Yeah.
And then the committee can deliberate and vote.
yeah, sure, thank
I
you.
think it'd be more useful. Yeah, an extra travel day.
Thank you.
a Flight or something.
I appreciate the 2-year approach, I think it's very, very helpful, and I think families will really appreciate
I
it.
know.
That's our.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so
Every
next
day
item on
matters.
the agenda is subcommittee reports.
So very, very quickly, because we're gonna hear so much about budget in the next couple of weeks, you're not gonna want to hear the word anymore. So, not that our meetings aren't awesome, because they are, and they're all recorded, and I would encourage everyone to watch them. So January 11th was our regular scheduled DNF where we do regular business, and we talked about the fiscal 2023 budget update where we learned. And we are starting the conversation about our unexpected increases, or you could say expected increases in transportation. And that's gonna be an issue we're gonna be talking about very thoroughly over the next few weeks. Food service, our food service budget is doing great. We actually have the opportunity to transfer our director salary onto the revolving account, which also includes our insurance, instead of paying it the way we did. So that means our food service budget's doing good when we can make those types of changes. We approved some budget transfers, which are in the packet. Revolving funds are all doing well. Gary Fish has been managing them very well, and there are no concerns. And then we talked about building fees, which is going to come to us in a few minutes in the form of a motion, and I can update you on that when we get to that motion. The next couple meetings we had were on November 17th and then November 18th, and then again tonight, which isn't on the agenda, but so these are the meetings that we have every year where we start budget development. And at these meetings, we do not associate numbers or costs of services or equipment or anything when we have these conversations. And I can't say enough how much I encourage everyone to watch those meetings. I know Sam was on, Laura was on, Keith, it would really help to watch those meetings for many reasons. One, you get to see how awesome this district performs. And the leadership from the department heads in each area that we have and their interaction with the administration and how positively they speak about the goals that we are trying to achieve and working with the staff, how the collaboration that's out there. I mean, it's really, really an impressive watch and something to listen to hear those meetings. And you'll learn about all the great things that are going on in the district. I know people get critical of us sometimes, thinking that we may not be doing the right things, but these meetings really get to in-depth conversations about each department and how compassionate our staff is towards our students. So it's really something I highly recommend that everyone see before we start making decisions on the budget. And during those meetings, what each department did is they went through their areas of strength, what their priorities are, the work that's being done towards those priorities, and then their desire to further strengthen those priorities. So you get to hear from special education, the preschool, all the elementary schools and their principals. We had O'Malley in the high school, we had professional development, and every topic that we fund is discussed very thoroughly. Like I said, I would just encourage you to watch those Zoom meetings, and we will be hearing about all those conversations with figures being attached coming soon in the next, I think starting February 1st,
We hope that.
and then continuing until we approve the budget in June. So lots of conversations coming forward. So other than that, then we had the update that we already got regarding the O'Malley School windows, and that project was part of our conversations as well. And we already got that update. So the only thing left we have to do is that motion. I didn't know if you want to do that now, or if you want to wait till after we do the grants, because I think you're gonna pull up some information about the building fees.
Yes,
I don't know how you want to do that now, or just wait till we do the transfers
you transfer now.
or the grants.
Yeah, that's right,
Okay.
grants.
Thank you. I'm gonna be hearing a lot of subcommittee reports from you in a couple weeks.
So I think Ben's pretty much gonna be doing it because he's gonna present
Oh, yeah,
it
that's
to
right.
us, and he's so thoroughly knowledgeable on this topic, along with Gary
You
and
go,
and
Pat.
our new assistant superintendent is very involved too, so they're good conversations. Difficult issues that we have to address this year, but we'll get through it and we'll hear about it, talk about it, make decisions on it.
All right. So moving on to action, we have 5 grants to approve. First one is Department of Elementary and Secondary Education 21st Century Learning Centers Internship Grant in the amount of $60,000.
So I'm gonna ask that you table that because it's not quite ready to go through.
Okay,
Hoping to bring it too soon.
so moving on to the Gloucester Education Foundation grants. First one is the East Gloucester Theater Program Grant in the amount of $3,000. Second one is the Veterans Memorial Theater Program Grant in the amount of $3,000. Third is Beaman Memorial Theater Program Grant in the amount of $2,500. And the fourth is the East Gloucester Bikes for All Grant in the amount of $6,569,000. Yeah, so in total, if my math is right, it's 15,069. And if it's okay with you guys, we can just approve all of them together.
I want to just,
I have a question about one of those
And then
grants
discussion.
before we do that, but I'm okay doing them all together. when we do.
Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the bikes for all. So we have one school that's getting all bikes.
so this is an initiative
And that's
that,
what it sounds like
Yeah.
anyway, so I just want to hear about it.
so it is a grant written by Casey Hubany at, he'll be at East Veterans. And she has found that not all students have access to learn how to ride a bike at a young age. And so she is getting enough bikes to use them in her PE class. And in the beautiful new school, there's going to be a little loop that they can ride around, and she's gonna teach those the coordination of riding a bike. And it's intended to focus on kindergartners
So this will be happening at the new
At the new-
location?
at the new location
Okay.
for next year.
Good.
And it's not, they don't get a bike to take home.
Okay,
It is it is
I got it.
PE equipment
awesome.
that they will use.
Okay.
My, sorry, I love the pedalless bikes that they call scoot bikes.
Yep.
My son learned how to ride on a bike, like, huh?
The balance bikes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he learned like before even preschool.
Yeah.
How to ride a bike, like
Mhm.
without pedals.
Well, yeah, and so she's finding not all students, not all children have access to do that, so she's gonna
Yeah.
teach them in school and PE class.
The idea is that it will be expanded, because obviously,
Most, if not all GEF grants, that is the hope and dream, right? So she's trying it out, and if it's working out, then that's something that we could possibly expand to other schools, yes.
I would just caution on, there are GEF grants that do go to some schools and don't go to other schools because there's not uptake and stuff like that.
Yes.
So there's an equity issue,
Mhm.
right, when that happens. And so I think this is a fantastic idea, and I would want it to be carefully thought about how it's going to be made equitable across the district.
Well, like other grants, other programs, we try it out, we may not determine it's feasible to do that.
Right.
Okay, or it doesn't work out right.
Right,
Or
yeah,
any number of
pilot it.
reasons, okay, and this is a it's kind of, pushing it, which I support, okay,
Right.
I support it, I still do. So, but just so you know, just because we try something doesn't mean it, we gotta see if it works.
No, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
of course.
great.
I think
It's like
sometimes,
piloting with the curriculum,
Yeah.
right? So we're piloting with the bicycles.
yes, right,
But I also do hear about as we expand, and, when things are successful, we want to expand them to everybody.
yes.
Absolutely. Get that.
If it makes sense at the facilities, I suppose, we'll be biking outdoors, like you said, there's like a track they could do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Does Plum Cove have that?
yeah, I think it's on that base, I mean, one challenge could be just storage, very honestly.
Yeah, sure.
At the new school, they won't have that challenge, but I'm thinking of like different locations, I think you could ride bikes to locations off the top of my head. Yeah.
Do we accept and we might give them back a little acceptance.
Can I just make one other point? Just on the, I noticed that in the list of the theater grants, Emily or someone from GEF wrote that they have approached the Beaman teacher to see if they need more, because obviously the grants are not for the same amount. So I really appreciated that note there, because that's also a brand new teacher.
Yes.
So she may not know.
and historically, 2,500 is what they've always given. And I think one or two schools had asked for more, and that is a new teacher that might not have known to ask for more, so I'm happy to.
So what are your notes?
So if,
No, so I just wanted to note that, and also to say, I appreciate that was included there, because
Yeah.
obviously that,
yeah, if there's a need.
Right.
We'll make sure.
Is there West Parish
Yeah.
and Plum Cove, are they on a different agenda somewhere?
They may not have applied yet, I don't think we've excluded already.
Plum Cove's, well, I think West Parish might have already happened because their
Okay.
place coming
Yeah.
up. And
Okay.
Plum Cove's play is not until the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the Gloucester Education Foundation grant in the amount of $15,069?
I move that we accept all the Gloucester Education Foundation grants in the amount of $15,069.
Second.
Just check them out, yes.
Is it right? Okay, good. All right, we have a motion and a second, roll call vote. Maria?
Ms. Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Weason?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
Yes,
And Ms. Prince?
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to the approval of the building use fees for long-term frequent users.
So I will show you just what we're talking about. So this is just a little background here. As you know, we have redone the policy and procedures on building use. We also increased fees to some degree. Which is still very reasonable for our facilities. But also there's some particular youth organization users, which are very high use users. Because I mean, we're talking about actually it's mostly basketball, honestly. And they're also using the higher rate facilities, field house, gymnasium, that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you just what we shared with the BNF subcommittee in terms of our thinking on that. Just let me share this one second. So you'll see, this is the boy travel basketball, so town city basketball. The last year's total fee for 65 dates was $250. Do the math, that's about a dollar, a few dollars a session, okay? And then this is practices and also games, okay? If we went by straight by the fee schedule, it's $150 per use, and that comes to almost $10,000, which was obviously, is a lot more than $250, okay? And also, we want these folks, we want to encourage these folks, we want to support those or stuff. So what the BNF committee agreed to was, really a much smaller amount in terms of per use, so $20 per use for O'Malley. And $75 per use for GHS, Fieldhouse. And then you see, if they had the same number of dates as last year, what the totals would be. So this is, this is dozens and dozens of dates. So there is a cost to that. There's a cost, for wear and tear. There's a cost, and this is separate from custodian fees. Custodian fees haven't changed. We don't control them, and as far as I know, they haven't changed. But those are, actually the bulk of the cost.
And that's paid for by the basketball league
Yeah, on top of this.
on top of this, but that's incurred by the travel.
Yeah, but there's, as I said, there's any change in that. But I assume it's. So that's what the BNF subcommittee agreed to, voted on, supported, and that's what they bring to you.
So, my memory is our motion was for those that use the facilities 12 times or more per year.
That's right.
And this is listing the travel basketball to be 10 dates.
But travel basketball is 65 plus 10.
Okay, oh, together, yeah, it's just where it was just the location, got it.
Now, and also because we don't know exactly which,
Yeah.
especially.
So I was wondering why I didn't
Yeah,
remember
especially
that.
Olympics may be doing it fewer, just to illustrate what
Yeah.
the fees would be.
Yeah.
And the fees are on your,
Okay.
so, but just to show the comparison to last year. Should East Fest be included?
I was just gonna ask that question.
Yeah, so,
I mean, even West Parish, no? Do they,
That was the next line.
yeah, both of those, Jim.
so,
And we're gonna review these every year, so,
they haven't, I don't believe.
we don't know who's using that.
Sorry,
Jim.
maybe go. Is West Parish used on these levels? Do you
I
know?
believe the boy. I thought the boys practiced at West Parish.
So,
I think it was the girls practice at West Parish.
that's right, that's right.
Played at O'Malley.
That's awesome. So essentially what this is, let's make sure that's right. This is, well, you can see right here, it's, I think we would apply the same discount rate at those other places.
So what are you saying, they're at a West Parish?
Somebody practices at West Parish and husband is at either the high school or O'Malley.
And certainly East
I
Boston.
can't remember who it is.
Right, that was part of, that was, okay.
Yeah, but we
Yeah,
don't know.
but we would do that, we would adjust those.
Yeah, it will
those
happen.
Rates for next year.
Right.
So, an elementary gymnasium, $30 an hour. It would want.
But then when we get to the other,
I mean, I don't know if it matters right now because that's not the motion that came out of,
Right, that's true.
right? But it's just sort of to think about,
Consider.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe to bring to a different meeting or bring back to BNF, but I think for tonight, it's a moot point.
yeah, so the motion that came out of the BNF subcommittee, which I'm gonna move, is to adopt the proposed long-term fees as set forth in this schedule for frequent youth user groups using our facilities 12 or more times per year.
Okay, so maybe all facilities. Is that,
What did we charge for elementary?
Right here. It's $30 an hour, 2 hour minimum, so $60 for a rental.
But I don't, so the only one we might be mistaken is the girls' basketball at West Parish.
Right, that's right,
Nobody else
that's right.
uses it more than 12 times per year.
Right.
So we just gotta take note of that, and maybe that we'll discuss that at BNF at a future date.
Yep.
But right now, this is the majority of
Right.
use.
But because we're saying, because the motion is all facilities, does it matter? Because if the price is gonna be
Well,
different,
It's the facilities set forth in the pricing schedule, which is O'Malley in the high school.
Yeah, this is what the motion is.
Wait, no, look, I added West Parish. We talked about it, West Parish. At O'Malley, girls travel basketball, O'Malley and West Parish. I think they could bounce back and forth. That's what was discussed.
and the
I mean,
price
I
is the
don't, I
same.
don't know.
Price
why
is the
we-
same.
Yeah.
Okay,
I added West Parish
Oh,
to
you
my,
did.
to the schedule. We talked about it.
But do we have a rate there? I guess I don't know if you're.
I think it's the same rate. It's
$20.
$25 per use.
Okay.
Yeah, West Parish is the same price as O'Malley.
so you made a motion?
I did. So we need a second.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Maria, any discussion before we?
Has everybody reached out to those two groups, the basketball group? and the-
So what happened was billing started with these groups, and that's how it was brought to our attention, because they were getting billed for $10,000,
Oh, okay.
right? So we're like, okay, wait a minute, that wasn't the intent of our fee schedule.
Do you have a concept of like how much they can reasonably afford, like? you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay, awesome.
And like, if you look at the fees, it's reduced drastically from
Yeah.
what we were actually
Right.
billing them. More than last year, obviously, but there's an expectation they would, and know that I think we start, with the exception of Special Olympics, there's a fee for joining these teams, which they have the revenue.
Okay, all right, yeah,
It's not like they're not paying
right,
to play. The parents, so,
okay.
and if there's a problem, if we have in our policy embedded somewhere that if there's an issue with financing, if the affordability, that they can approach us too.
Awesome. Like that.
Any other discussion? All right, Maria, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes,
and Ms. Prince.
Yes,
All right, moving on. To their communication, new business. Do we?
I have no business,
I
but
don't think it's off.
do you want to do that now?
No, not yet. So we have, you gave us the Veterans Elementary update already.
Yep.
All right, so then the next one is letters from the teachers union.
Oh, it's request to begin negotiations.
Okay.
That's.
That's it.
you know, it's-
Okay, that's all. Okay, okay.
But you know, it's a public sort of, you know, acknowledgement of that.
Yeah, and it's in our packet.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's anything. Okay. new business?
New business, two things. So one, the celebration for the Gloucester 400. Cape Ann Finns is requesting to serve alcoholic beverages on October 28, 2023 at the O'Malley Innovation School. I'm reading this for the first time. It is to celebrate Gloucester, and our school policies say to, that the school committee has to approve the service of alcohol in our schools. So it's the Gloucester 400 and Cape Ann Finns are requesting to approve the serve alcohol beverages on October 28th at the O'Malley. Our two groups have partnered to host the 2023 Fin Fun New England Weekend, which is called FFW. The G400 has its mission to encourage all city ethnic groups that have helped shape Gloucester to participate in the year-long anniversary celebration. It is the 31st of the Finnish Americans' contribution. To get a sense of Fin Fun Weekend, go to finfun.org.
then
No, we
we
don't
what?
know.
Wait, so this is gonna might be a problem. So I'm seeing free beer, wine and drinks, which is gonna be a problem because no alcohol can be free. But we can figure that out at BNF. So this is a request to send it to BNF for discussion. But just know that there's no free alcohol.
What's the licensing process for third parties? I know what my experience.
Well,
You're asking.
Funny you ask that because I am chair of the licensing board, so this is gonna come before me to approve, and I can tell you I'm probably gonna abstain in the vote, but yeah, bring it forward, and that's okay. I don't have an interest in this in any capacity, so I probably could vote, but I won't for the sake of it if it looks unethical. But what will happen is if the school will go to BNF, we recommend it will come here. If the school committee says it's okay, then they have to apply to the licensing board to get a one-day liquor license.
And then they assume the liability of. course.
Yeah, there's all kinds of liability. They have to get insurance, they have to provide the floor plan. I'm gonna tell them they have to have security, because it could be a lot of people. We'll talk about the ability to do free drinks and what they can serve. I don't know if they're a 50.
Is this gonna be all adults or?
It could, I don't know, we don't know yet, we're referring it to be enough to find out more, so it's just a request to refer it to BNF. And then my other request to BNF is, we took a tour of our CTE programs a couple weeks ago, and when we were outside looking at the awesome sheds that they're building, we realized that they were working outside because they didn't have room inside. And there is the potential to maybe build something out over there. I think James Cook brought it to our attention about connecting the buildings. So I'd like to refer that discussion to BNF as well. And that's my request for the night. Thank you.
All right. Any other new business? No? Motion to
I
adjourn?
move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Anyhow.
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone wants to say.
No.
Thank you. All right, good night, everyone.
good night.
Thank you, folks.